Recently, Animated James put out an animation about the My Little Pony characters fighting over who gets to watch their favorite cartoon series. It did make me think of one thing, other than the fact that this is freaking brilliant and everything was done perfectly. There was one thing that I found interesting. Twilight admitted sheepishly to loving the animated series Teen Titans Go, and everybody else is like, oh, that's such a horrible show, except for Pinkie Pie, who loved it. Made me think of what is it that Teen Titans Go does wrong that makes so many people hate the series. The very first thing, of course, is the fact that there was a series called Teen Titans. It starred Robin and Cyborg and Beast Boy and Starfire and Raven living in the tower and having all kinds of adventures and battling evil and so forth. This one has Robin and Cyborg and Beast Boy and Starfire and Raven living in the tower, having all kinds of adventures and battling evil and so forth. And both series have the same voice actors, and both series have some small amount of the same continuity. And occasionally some shorts play up on things that you would only have remembered if you had watched the original Teen Titans series. But more often than not, the series very extremely annoyingly ignores the continuity of the first series to do whatever the heck it wants. It's like it's trying to be a continuation while at the same time trying to be its own original thing. It has about as much to do with Teen Titans Go has about as much in common with Teen Titans as Tenchi in Tokyo has with the Tenchi Muyo OVA. If you look at the differences between the Tenchi Muyo OVA and the Tenchi Universe series, you see quite a lot in common with them. But when you compare those to the Tenchi in Tokyo series, you get an inferior series in the second half of the comparison. And that's what Teen Titans Go is doing, only a lot worse. Now let's look at a example that you would know quite a lot more about, being American and whatnot. And that would be Batman. We have Batman, the animated series by Bruce Timm, the one that everybody loves. Then you have The Batman, Batman Brave and the Bold, which was a comedy series, and Beware the Batman. Each of these has a completely different look, a completely different feel and tone, and a completely different voice cast, even though they're all Batman. But because there's enough differences, it's easy to accept one as completely different from the other. Even Batman the Brave and the Bold, I can accept as a ridiculous, silly comedy because it's clearly different from all of the other incarnations of Batman. Teen Titans Go has way too many similarities to Teen Titans to stand on its own and be its own thing, and way too many differences from Teen Titans to be loved as a continuation of the original series. I was okay with the silliness and the comedy. It's the ignoring of continuity that continues to bug me. Then on top of that, you have the characters being constantly out of character. I know there's supposed to be exaggerations of those characters, but it feels more like they're constantly doing things that these characters would have never done. At least with things like Batman the Brave and the Bold and Tenchi in Tokyo, it feels like the characters are doing things that they would have still possibly done. This is also the same kind of annoyance that we got when we had Sonic the Hedgehog back in the 90s, and there were two separate Sonic the Hedgehog series. Very cartoony, Looney Tunes-y comedy series, and the more dramatic Sonic Sat AM. Two completely different variations of the same character with the same voice cast. And again, in the comedy series, everybody seemed to be completely out of character, and both series ignored each other's continuity, creating an awesome series that everybody loved and a lame series that everybody hates. I think if Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go had aired simultaneously, they would have been very much like the two Sonic shows. But what could have saved Teen Titans Go? Now, take a lesson from Batman vs. Batman Brave and the Bold, and do a completely different art style, completely different voice actors, and completely different main characters. Just like comparing Teen Titans to Young Justice, you would have something that was similar but clearly different. It would even be like comparing Tenchi Muyo to Magical Project S or Sasami Magical Girls Club. Completely different things going in completely clearly different directions. That's the way that Teen Titans Go could have been saved from at least most of the fan rage. If you want to do a Teen Titans thing, fine, go for it, but have on it, instead of Robin, Beast Boy, Cyborg, Starfire, and Raven, have Speedy and Wonder Girl and Kid Flash and other members of the Titans besides the ones that we're familiar with. If the series wanted to stand a chance, it should have distanced itself from Teen Titans rather than trying to make itself look like a follow-up. Being half a follow-up and half a series that stands on its own was just disappointing to everybody. If the series had gone with brand new characters that we'd never seen in animation before who were still Teen Titans, or if it had gone with an original team that was a group of superheroes that wasn't part of the DCU, or if it had gone with a different superhero team altogether, like the Outsiders perhaps, then it could have stood on its own as something unique and different. This would be the same problem that we would have if they had done, say, the Justice League. It would have been too similar to the last incarnation. You really gotta sort of mix things up and make it different to stand on its own. Now that I've said that several times over, what else could we have done to have made this more interesting? If all of my advice had been taken into consideration, you would still have to deal with the writing. The fact that the characters are immature and mean and selfish and a bunch of other things that works on Fairly Odd Parents or SpongeBob or Breadwinners or Sanjay and Fred, but all of those things are things that I find highly unappealing, that reviewers like Mr. Enter find highly unappealing, that most audiences find unappealing, but of which there is still an audience for because those things still bring in the ratings. Therefore, there must be fans of that sort of comedy. I will probably never understand why being cruel and mean and selfish and egotistical is considered funny, but it is to some group of people. I think the one more piece of advice that would have saved the series for a lot of people would have been if they had done actual good, smart, intelligent comedy and had the characters acting reasonably nice and considerate and friendly, and show them getting along and being good characters. You could have still had funny moments without the constant being annoying and egotistical and hurting people's feelings. I could go on with examples, but other reviewers have done it better than I have. The point is that even with all of my suggestions helping the series out, it still had to be written well, and that was the second strike for the series. Strike one is being too similar to another series while ignoring continuity, and strike two is the writing and personalities of the characters. Those two things combined were enough to make me lose interest in the series and not want to watch it. You don't necessarily need a third strike for me to stop caring. Other things that I've given up watching also include the Ben 10 series. That one did keep continuity. It just got increasingly lamer. I think in the end it's writing that's most important. Anyhow, those are all my thoughts on this subject for now. Let me know if you have any additional thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching and good night.